Hey, listeners. Thanks for tuning back in today, and welcome to season two of Unconscious Evolution. I'm Christine Passo. I'm a support and transformation coach for midlife women. I'm also the host of this podcast, Unconscious Evolution. So I took a few months off just to take a breather. I had finished 15 episodes. Rah, rah, rah. Thank you, Teri. 15 episodes of season one. And I thought, you know what? That's a good cutoff episode. Take a little break, start again. And honestly, I cannot return and launch season two with a more special guest than my repeat guest, Teri Swope. So before I get into her really quickly, I just want to share with you all, if you missed episode one of season one that launched in September of 2024, which feels like forever ago. Am I right? Yeah. She was episode one and honestly has remained the highest downloaded episode of Unconscious Evolution to date. So that either means one of two things. One, you are absolutely unbelievably spectacular, and what you talked about resonated so much with people that they couldn't miss it and perhaps even listen to it more than once. Or you were really good at sharing the episode and pulled everybody from all over the world to listen to it. But honestly, either way, I love it because episode one of season one was fantastic. And I've been waiting impatiently to record a follow up episode with Teri. So, Teri, thank you again for being here today. Yes, it is. It is. I've been so excited about this. So, Teri Swope has been through a lot over the last year and a half. I mean, really, come on, like over her entire life, as most of us have, but in particular over the last year and a half. And having her back is just a really special treat. And when you go through a major life event like Teri did, it changes you in ways that keeps changing you throughout the rest of your life, right? Like that change doesn't just happen in the beginning because that event happened. No, what you learned and what you went through keeps you evolving on a different level than you were before. So, Teri, I can't wait to hear about the last 6 months of your life and perhaps how it might match up with our conversation from last year. Now, listeners, of course, Teri's contact information is in the show notes. I highly recommend that you reach out to her, whether it's just to get to know her on a personal level or if you want to hire her for the work that she does. It's all there. Reach out to her. So, Teri, typically I ask, what would you like to share today? Right. But I kind of just want to lean into how you're feeling today.
That you started with that because I just had a conversation with someone else earlier this morning where I talked about the value of recognizing how we're feeling in the moment because that's the only place that our power is.
Yeah.
It's the only place that we can act from is this here and now moment. And I would tell you, Christine, that for the longest time, that idea escaped me. I couldn't fully grasp what that meant. And I would say over the course of the past year, it means more to me and it resonates in a deeper place with me. And I'm able to articulate it in a way that I haven't been able to in the past, which to the point that you just made is part of this evolving and this growth process. So I am feeling right now deeply content and centered and peaceful and in my purpose. Now, I have had a lot of opportunity today, specifically to talk. It's been a busy day, and I've been talking around those lines of my purpose and the work that I do in the world and my intention with the work that I do in the world. So that probably is leading to that sense of, because I've been talking about it so much. But I will also say that I spend most of my days now, well, I'm intentional about starting my day getting to a place of centered peacefulness and contentment and gratitude. But I would say I spend a lot of my time in that place these days. And when I'm not there, I recognize it. And sometimes I recognize it and I stay there. And sometimes I recognize it and make a conscious choice to get myself out of it. So that's how I'm feeling right here and now in this moment.
I really love that you said what you just said because I've been kind of going through a little something in my life. And it has a lot to do with, and I posted about this yesterday on Facebook and Instagram. It's our Achilles heel, right? We all have that, in particular, one thing that follows us the rest of our lives. We can't, some things just can't be removed. And for me, it's self doubt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that also kind of feeds into it like a dye. It leaks into other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of being present, I was letting self-doubt from, let's say, when I was a teenager follow me today as a 54-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And it was spinning and spinning and spinning until I realized, oh my gosh, I'm fighting it instead of looking at it and actually just feeling it, right? Like accepting, which I'm going to get to in a second with you, because you talked a lot about acceptance and awareness in episode 1 of season 1. But I was like, well, wait a minute. If I just accepted that this was a part of me, like this is like the color of my skin, this is the color of my eyes, I'm not going to be able to change it. So what am I going to do with it? And like when it's there, and I'm working with Nicholas Whitaker, who's my coach right now, and he's like, what if you just let it be? And I said, well, what do you mean? Thinking, I don't want to just let that be. Like that hurts. That sucks. It brings me down. And he said, but if you again just make it a part of you. And it really brought me back to when I was grieving last year, and I was grieving unapologetically. It's like, this is where I am. I feel terrible. And I'm not going to apologize for not showing up for A, B, C, and D because I can't. This is who I am. And I'm like, I kind of need to do that with my Achilles heel and be like, all right, today, all right, not really believing in myself. All right, it feels really icky. It's bringing me down. It's making me doubt my abilities to accomplish this task. All right, well, what is it going to take to help me accomplish this task? Because this feeling really isn't real. Like what's one little thing? And it's basically just, and I don't usually use these kind of terms, but like lean into it and just let it be accepted. And then focus on the present, the right now, which is exactly why I asked you that question. How are you today? Because who you were even 4 hours ago might be different from who you are now. So I'm going to back up a little bit because you talked a lot about labeling yourself and attaching yourself to specific labels in episode 1 of season 1, like being a vegetarian, being a sister, being a mother, whatever type of work that you were doing. And you're like, I had to detach from it because it made me really question, who am I now? You got your cancer diagnosis. Who am I now? So here we are now, 6 months from the last episode. Who are you now?
That is such a great question. I think one of the things that I have learned is that when I attach a label, whatever that label may be, and it may be something positive, I am a positive influence. I am an inspiration, whatever it is, I've immediately placed a limitation on myself. And I've immediately placed some conditions on myself that may or may not serve me and my purpose in this world well. So, and also, I've also come to realize that labels are words, and words in and of themselves have limitations. So what I've gotten so much better at, as opposed to attaching a label to who I am, I've become much more aware of how am I showing up and how am I feeling in this moment. I will tell you, like being really acutely aware of my emotions and how they're showing up in my life, how I'm reacting to my emotions, how my emotions are impacting other people in my life has not always been something that's been top of mind for me.
Yeah.
And so when I think about who I am now, I go to how am I feeling right now? How am I being right now? How am I showing up right now? As opposed to who am I? What am I about? All of the labels that we can get attached to. Because, that has been part of my process because to your point, there were so many labels that I had to let go of. If I'm not a vegetarian, who am I? If I'm not this healthy person that would never get cancer, who am I? If I'm not this strong, powerful, physically parent for my kids, because it's hard to be physically powerful while you're going through chemo, who am I? And so what I had to come to realize is that I am not just one thing. I am not, defined by a word or by a label. I am so much more than that. And I'm not even sure there's an appropriate word to contain it. And so what I do is just come back to how am I feeling right now? How is that emotion? How am I processing that emotion? How am I turning it into something that is a force for good in the world? Starting with me, how is it a force for good for me?
Yeah.
Now, having said all that, I have to react to what you said a few minutes ago.
Okay.
Is that okay? Is
Oh
that
my
okay?
gosh, yes.
Okay. So my perspective on self-doubt, which I experience myself, I firmly believe, Christine, that it is part of the human condition.
Mm.
That we never really, not really transcend self-doubt. And I think that has something to do with the fact that who we are innately beyond, I don't want to get too kind of woo-woo on us here, but I also can. I can go
You can do.
way to the end of that spectrum. But who we are innately is so much bigger than our physical body and from our brain's awareness of who we are, that the only way that our brain can make sense or to process the vastness, the limitlessness of who we are is to bring it down into a much smaller version. That's the only thing it can process, is this much smaller version. And so to your point and to Nicholas's point, just be with that, accept that is part of the human condition. Feeling not worthy enough in whatever way, with some of us, it's big. Like in our teenage years, it's usually very big and very prominent in our lives and how we show up in the world. And as we get older, it can become a little more subtle, but it is still there. It's still part of the human experience. So I think that there is a way to accept it. It just is. This is the way that I feel. And also be intentional about cultivating a different way of being in the world.
Yeah.
So not being attached to the self-doubt, the label of self-doubt. So I do have self-doubt. I am feeling like I have I'm doubting my abilities. And also I'm going to intentionally create thoughts and create visions that outline a life for myself that I want.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those things can exist at the same time.
Yeah.
They really can. So, and I have to do that all the time. You and I both know, being an entrepreneur, building a business, it is really difficult, messy work. It really is. And you have to have a significant amount of, a friend of mine used to call it intestinal fortitude.
Yeah.
You have to have a lot of guts
Yeah.
to get out there and do this every single day, to put yourself out there, to be talking about these things that we're deeply passionate about and that we believe in and that come from our deep heart and soul, and we feel called to share it. And, that's a huge vulnerability for us to put ourselves out there in that way.
Yeah.
So it takes a tremendous amount of courage, and you have to get beyond the self-doubt. You are getting beyond the self-doubt. If you weren't, you wouldn't be doing this podcast. You wouldn't be out on LinkedIn. You wouldn't be putting yourself out there and sharing your truth like you are.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my perspective on that. It can be both. We can acknowledge that feeling, but we can also acknowledge that that's not who I am. And I can be very intentional in creating a reality for myself that is not informed by the self-doubt. That is not limited by that self-doubt.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me of, you talked about courage, and I wouldn't be doing this podcast if I didn't believe in myself, if I didn't know that there's impact in this. And it brings me back to the week that I sat down and wrote out what this show was going to be like. I mean, I got super detailed. And right before I did it, it was a Monday. I have Mondays, if you know what I mean, Mondays all the time. And it just doesn't seem to be a great work day for me. It seems to be a great planning day. But there I was, and I'm like, why am I bothering with this? Right there, here came the self-doubt. And I thought, stop it. And I said, I'm capable. And Teri, I think all it took was 5 times to say it inside my own brain to myself. And every time I said it, it came out a little different. Like, I'm capable. I am capable. I am capable. I mean, it was amazing. Like it really doesn't take that much, but I say this because there are a lot of listeners out there who are shamed with their self-doubt. I know I used to be, and I still get that way, right? Because I think, hey, I'm a coach. I'm out there working with people who are trusting their deepest, most difficult challenges and struggles. But the fact is, I'm not a superpower person. And even the superpowers like Wonder Woman, she had her Achilles heels. Like she had her things that, were her soft spots. We're just regular people. And frankly, I'd rather communicate with somebody who gets it than someone who's like, well, I never get that way. Because right off the bat, there's a disconnect there. But actually, this is such a great lead up to what I want. I'm going to quote you in something that you said in episode 1 of season 1. You said, be careful what you attach yourself to and be ready to question what you think you know for sure. And this piggybacks a bit on what you said before about not attaching to labels or whatever it might be. But when I heard you say that, again, because I've listened to this episode several times, I thought that is what it took for me to make changes in my life was, who am I really? And am I really showing up? Like, tell me what that means for you, for me to repeat that back to you. Like, what does that make you think now?
Well, I say that all the time, for one thing. I tried to put it in the book that, well, it's broadly reported that Mark Twain said it. It's not what you think you, I'm not going to remember it, but it's what you think you know for sure that gets you in trouble.
Yes.
And but it's so true. And I say it all the time. And I think that we become so attached because it's a sense of belonging, right? When we're attached to an ideology or a label that kind of attaches us to a group. So, for example, vegetarianism, that it creates in us this sense of belonging. We belong to something bigger than ourselves.
Yep.
And the reality is that we belong to something bigger than ourselves just because we're human. Yep. We are part of this vast, connected human beingness. And we don't need to be connected to, we don't have to be artificially attached to anything else. But we're socialized to believe that we do need to be. That being attached to a label adds value to our lives. And when we really get still with ourselves and when we question what we think we know for sure, and the way to do that is to question what it feels like. Does it feel true? Does this deeply resonate with me? So much of what's going on, the narratives that are going on, particularly in our country, and all of the dramatic things that are happening, people's lives being impacted, all of the narratives that are going on around that, and the marginalization and the victimization and all of that, bringing that back to what do I know for sure? And do this idea or this ideology that I think has resonated with me, do I really know that for sure? Or do I need to dig deeper and ask more questions first of myself? Does that really make sense to me? And I think so often we get swept up in the social narratives, we get swept up in our own mental narratives, our own stories, that we don't pause long enough to think about, does that even make sense?
Right.
Does it even make sense? Does it feel right? Does it resonate deeply with me? I use the example of, as I was growing up, as a kid, I grew up in Southern Baptist Church. And, as a kid, you just go where your parents take you. And I went to church with my grandma all the time. And I remember as a teenager feeling like that I don't understand. And there was this like sense of dis-ease, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was. But I believed it because it was what my family believed. It was what I grew up in. I knew the people at church until, decades later, when we had a dramatic event in our lives, and I picked up a book, Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And that book and the way that he described, our connection with each other and to a higher force in the world resonated so deeply with me. And that was the start of me really kind of starting to cultivate this questioning what I think I know for sure, questioning and then that has just evolved, right? With every big life event. What do I know for sure? What is that really accurate for my life? Or do I need to dig a little deeper into that? So, did I answer your question? I don't even know if I did. If I
You
didn't.
did. And, just in chiming in, it takes, I hate to use the word humility, because there isn't anything wrong with us asking ourselves a question and being like, you know what, that might not be how I feel, or that I don't think I reacted the way that I think I did, or I've been saying this and I don't think it's true. It's like we immediately either get defensive, that we feel like we need to defend what where we've always come from and what we've always said, instead of, or like self-protection. It's like, oh my God, I'm wrong. I'm messed up. Now I have to tell everybody that I'm not who I said I was. Instead of just, you know what? I learned something really cool today, that I've been saying this, and really I've been shutting myself out from knowing and thinking and feeling differently about how this actually might be.
Mm,
So like we can turn it into this teaching empowerment moment, not only for ourselves, but for those that we share it with,
mm,
instead of the defensiveness and the shame that might come with it. Cause that's where the door is closed, right?
mm,
That's
mm,
where it's like, no, I know what I'm talking about. I know. I
mm.
mean, and those are very difficult people to communicate with.
Yeah. Well, I think I absolutely do believe that it does require humility, because we live in a world with these social standards and these social narratives that dictate how we're supposed to be in the world.
Mm.
So, and we attach ourselves, like I said, to these labels that we've sort of, sometimes we've been given, and we accept them. Sometimes we've created them for ourselves. And then it requires energy to hang on to those, because that's who we are. That's how other people identify us in the world. That is who we are. And the reality is that when we can show up authentically and being vulnerable and with humility, and acknowledge, maybe that's not who I am. Maybe that's not what what I should have been promoting, or how I should have been showing up in the world all along. By the way, it was how I was showing up. So no sense, like trying to question the history, because it is what it is. But also, we're evolving constantly as humans. Like you said, I'm not the same person I was when we even started this podcast, and neither are you.
Mm.
We're meant to change.
Yeah.
And when we can do that authentically and openly, and, openly question, gosh, that was an interesting time. And for
Yeah.
so long, I clung to that belief. What else isn't true about me, about you, about the world? I think we give people freedom to do that. when we do that very openly and authentically, and it is kind of scary because you have people who are like, oh, you must not know who you are. You must have never known.
Right.
Well, I used to follow you and I used to think that you were up here, but apparently you're just down here with the rest of us. Well, yeah, we all are. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how openly and authentically we're doing this life thing.
Yeah.
How we are growing through this life thing. And the more open and authentic we are about the fact that this is a growth process, it is a growth journey. None of us have it figured out. Even, as I don't call myself a coach, but whether you're a coach or a leadership guru or leadership development expert, whatever, none of us have it all figured out. Everything is changing all the time. And so we can't possibly change as quickly as all the dynamic of the world is changing. And we're not even meant to do that. We're meant to grow and to develop and to walk each other through it.
Yes.
And yeah, I think it's the most empowered and impactful people in the world are those that are willing to do that, walk alongside you and say, you know what? I don't know exactly where we're going because the future isn't written yet. And everything, especially right now, is changing so quickly, but I am willing to walk with you and maybe a few steps ahead of you because I've learned so much in all of my life experiences. But let me be clear, I don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
What I do know is how to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
How is that belief serving me? How is that belief serving us? How does that feel in your body? How is that energy serving you? How are those thoughts serving you? That's what I know how to do, is ask questions first of myself and then of others.
And
So
that is like the number one way to stay curious and keep an open mind. But I want to clarify something, because I work with a lot of women who are coming from a place of self-doubt, like where it's really fresh in their mind. They're having a hard time managing it. They feel like failures. They feel like they're not enough. They are in major life transition, maybe relationship change. And I want to clarify. So with those questions, right? So like you and I talked about, be prepared to challenge yourself with whether or not it's right, right? And what I want to do is I want to put that into two categories. Not where you self-sabotage and say, you shouldn't have done this, you made the wrong decision. Why did you do that? That's a different set of questions. Those are questions that are never going to help you get to where you want to be, let alone even past the feelings that you're feeling right now. So anytime, listeners, those of you that are listening, anytime you are creating that kind of environment within your own mind to say, well, why did you do that? You shouldn't have done that. Sarah didn't like it. Now everybody doesn't like you. You're not going to get the promotion at work. Like those are not the conversations. The conversations like what Teri was saying, which are asking powerful questions for you to, in a positive and curious method, ask yourself if where you're standing right now, is that really where you want to be? And if it's not, okay, what's your next decision going to be? What's your next reaction going to be? And that's where the beauty comes in. And I love how well you talked about that and how much you live your life that way. And, Teri, I can see and feel, and we're here on Riverside Studio, we're essentially on Zoom, and I can feel that difference in you than when we met 6 months ago. So something else that you talked about, and everybody talks about it and they throw this word around, and even you said that in episode 1, season 1, resilience.
Mm-hmm.
I actually hardly ever use the word because I almost feel it's controversial in my mind because of the way that it's overused and used.
Yes.
So when I said that word, you had a reaction, and I just want to hear your thoughts. Like, what does that word mean to you now? What do you think?
I agree that it's overused, and sometimes I'm a little sensitive about using it too, because I think that it almost has, for me at least, when I use it, because resilience, if I'm anybody, it is resilience. It is. I have been an illustration. My life has been an illustration of the attribute or the energy of resilience. Sometimes I worry that bringing that term up, if people don't feel resilient, it is almost a shame-inducing word, because I don't feel resilient. So what's wrong with me? I'm not that, I don't have that capacity. But the way that I feel and talk about resilience is not something that we go get. It's not something that we build. It's not something that we earn through life experience, anything else. It is something that is part of who we are, and it is innate in our human spirit. We are all born with it. We've been conditioned to believe that we're not resilient, that we don't have, that we're not empowered, that we don't have the capacity to endure whatever life sends our way. We've been conditioned to believe that. We've been conditioned to play it safe, to be careful, because you may not get through that. And the reality is, we all have the innate capacity to endure whatever life throws at us, whatever it is. My life has been a living testament to that. It really has. But I am so not the only one. But so often we don't give ourselves credit for how our lives have shown, how this power has shown up in our lives in the past.
Yep.
Because I don't care who you are, every single one of us have known some kind of trauma, whether it's big T trauma, little t trauma, every single one of us has. And we're still here because we have this innate power to meet life where it is. Our brain gets in the way a lot of times, and social conditioning gets in the way a lot of times, but we're still here because of this innate power to endure, to grow through, to optimize our life by way of the experiences that we have. In fact, that's probably how I would describe resilience. It is the ability to take a life experience and optimize it to take our life experience to the next level. And we all have that capacity. I'm not special. You know, my daughter's really into David Goggins right now. And if you know anything about him, he has been through so much physical and emotional, just very intense trauma. And he talks a lot about resilience. Well, we all have that. We all have the same energy of that resilience because we're all born with it. So it's just a matter of finding little ways to recognize that in ourselves, having someone that maybe can help us point it out in ourselves, point out the ways that illustrate resilience in our lives, because you're still here. You've been doing this life thing, and life is not easy. It's not. It is not easy. There is a lot of joy and beauty. There's also a lot of pain. It's just part of the process. We don't have to judge it. It just is part of the human condition. Right. So I feel like the part of the innate energy that informs who I am and how I show up in the world is intended to illustrate the power and the strength of the human spirit. And if you want to call that resilience, we can call it resilience. But again, words are just so limiting. It just is who we are, this limitless power. And with that power comes the ability to endure whatever life sends our way.
Yeah. And resilience, I think that the word kind of hits me in a weird way, because we tend to measure resilience against other people's resilience and what they've gone through and what they've bounced back from. It's like, well, I'm not as resilient as them. I have a lot of clients that say that, well, I'm just not resilient. I'll say, well, of course you are. Like, meanwhile, I already know enough about them to say this. Oh, well, I get, yeah, but that wasn't that big of a deal. I'm like, but how did it feel to you?
Mm-hmm.
Because resilience really is one of those words that means what it does to each individual person. Mm. I mean, we know the umbrella effect of what resilience is, but then we get to kind of create what we need that resilience for, and then own it within our own lives to empower us and take us to that next level, like you mentioned. But again, I love to question status quo and go against like all the normal stuff, because we're all so incredibly different. And like you said, it's just a word. It's just a word that all these words that are out there, they inspire feelings that are unique to each and every single one of us. It's like tomato, tomato, right? I mean, same type of thing. And we worry too much that our definition isn't the same as somebody else's.
Mm, mm. That's so true. Well, we do so much comparing just in general,
Yeah.
and we don't recognize that our life experience all by itself has tremendous value. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have something unique to offer the world.
Yeah.
And that uniqueness comes from our own life experiences, the people that we have around us, the experiences that we've gone through, how we've grown through them. And that can't be anybody else's. It can't be compared to anybody else's, because that's their life experience and their journey and their unique gifts that they have to bring to the world. That's another thing that has just become so acutely clear to me, is that, and don't get me wrong, I get caught up in the comparison trap too.
Because again, what'd you say? Human design
Oh, yeah,
or the
absolutely.
human, right? It's a
It's part of
human
the
condition.
it's part of the human condition,
Yeah.
is to compare ourselves with other people.
Yeah.
And it's part of the way our brain is wired too. Like to protect us from risk, just keep yourself small. Or protect yourself from pain, keep yourself small, keep yourself from taking risks, putting yourself out there, just play it safe. That's the way that our brain is wired.
Yeah.
And so, our natural tendency is to say, well, I never could do that, or he's doing life so much bigger than I am, when the reality is the way that we're showing up on our lives is exactly how we're supposed to be showing up. That's not to say that there's not a way to unleash more of our life energy and our positive influence into the world. But we're right exactly where we're supposed to be. And that's not where anybody else is supposed to be.
Yeah.
No one else is on your level.
That's right.
No one else is on our level, right?
Nope.
We're all on our own level with our own unique mission and purpose and intention in the world. And we're still all connected, but we every single one of us has our own purpose and mission in the world, and it's unique.
Yep. Totally. That's why I don't believe that there is competition among coaches, because come on, who I am and what I offer and the type of person that I am, my history, how I love is totally different from anybody else. And there are going to be a lot of people that don't resonate with me. And that's great. That's why there are so many other coaches out there. Okay. So I revealed my new awareness that I learned with my coach, Nick, about how I wasn't allowing myself to accept that self-doubt is just a part of me. It's there. So for you and your last thoughts, is there something within your life recently that has sparked an awareness that you know is going to have a powerful continued effect on you?
So yes, building this new program, which is a part of my business called the Power Program, has been an intense labor of love. It has been something that really, the only way I can describe it is that it just came through me, the structure of it, the organization of it, the people that I needed to build it. It all lined up, right? Serendipity, synchronization, it all lined up. And what I know for sure is that the POWER program, and it's an acronym, it stands for the Path of Wellness, Empowerment, and Resilience,
Okay.
is deeply, deeply needed. The skills and what we teach in this program is deeply needed in the world today. And what has been very front and center for me, we talked about self-doubt earlier, is that it is not about me. I had this idea, and the people that I need to build the idea with and put it all together and get it out in the world, it is so not about me. It is something that is coming through me with the help of so many other people, but it's something that the world needs. And so one of the ways that I have been getting beyond my self-doubt and who do you think you are, like going this
Right.
broad, because I'm going very broad with the program. My intention is to work with tens of thousands of people, for the program to be impacted by, well, hundreds of thousands of people, if I'm
There we
being
go.
honest. And in order for me to hold that broad vision, I have to get out of my own head and get out of the self-doubt and be acutely aware that this is not about me. The reason I feel so powerful and purposeful and intentional about it is because it is something that needs to get out in the world. And if the universe wants to use me to put it out in the world, I'm here for it. But what I need to do is get out of my own head, get out of those feelings of unworthiness. And by the way, Christine, that goes for every single one of us.
Yeah.
Because we all have something that the world needs. We all have the power of influence that we'll never know. We'll never know how far and wide it travels.
No.
But the first thing that we have to do is get out of our own head and get out of that sense of lack of worthiness or,
Yep.
yeah. So thanks for
It's so
asking
true.
that.
Oh, yes. And thank you for answering. And it really is true. It's like if we stop to think about it, in our head, the majority of conversations that we're having are not positive conversations. It's a minimal amount of time that we spend saying something positive because it interrupts the negative. And then we stop thinking because now we're doing. It's like, let me stop that thought. How do I stop this thought? Okay, I'm having a thought. Okay, what am I having thought about? I'm not capable. Well, I am capable. Well, I am capable. I can get this done. I am capable. And then boom, we're not in our head anymore. We're out of our head. So you're so right. We restrict more than we even realize by getting stuck in our head. And it's really hard to break that cycle. It's like
very powerful.
it is so hard to just stop and go, I'm having a thought. That's all it is. It's just a thought.
Mm-hmm. That's all it is. It's a thought. And it is powerful to the point that you just made. 80% of our thoughts in a given day, and we have between 60 and 70,000 thoughts a day, 80% of them are negative. And so if you break that down, we're having on average, 56,000 negative thoughts a day. If we're not intentional about changing that mental narrative, how is that showing up in our lives? What is that producing? What are the outcomes that those thoughts that inform our emotions, that inform our behaviors, and ultimately the outcomes in our lives? How is that showing up? But the truth is, and most people don't know this, and most people certainly don't practice it, we can be in control of how we think.
Yeah.
It takes practice. It's like going to the gym. You're not going to get toned. You're not going to build that muscle if you don't develop a practice.
Yeah.
But it does take practice. And with consistency and with consistent practice, we can be in charge and we can actively cultivate thoughts that inform the outcomes that we desire in our lives. It's a key part of the power program. Yeah.
It's so essential. And like you said, it's like going to the gym. If you stop going to the gym, your body's going to feel it. If you stop practicing how to pay attention to ourselves and focus on those, the 20% of, the positive conversations that we can have and increase that, it takes work. Nothing comes easy, right? I mean, unfortunately, the really rough stuff comes easy because we're almost conditioned to feel that way and to think that way.
Negativity bias. Yeah,
Yep.
It's the way our brain is wired.
Yep.
But neuroplasticity has proven we can change the way our brain is wired.
That's right.
It's science. There's science behind it. We can change the neural pathways. We can create new neural pathways that serve our life in a way that we want to show up, that we want to be in the world.
And who doesn't want that? I mean, we all want that. We have to buy in and it's not even buying in. It's realizing that we can, but no, it's not going to drop into our lap like a search on Google, or, hey, Alexa, play this, or whatever it is. I mean, no, it's going to take work, but gosh, we forget that when we were in school, when we were young, we were in elementary school for 6 years, and then we were in middle school, and then we went to high school. I mean, just that schooling was, what, 10, 15, 13 years.
Yeah.
So we forget that these things take time. So Teri, I love this conversation. And you know what? I think you and I and Unconscious Evolution is going to want you back as episode 1 unless something crazy happens. So every time I flip a season, I think you should be the episode opener. What do you say?
Oh my gosh, I would love that. I would be honored. Yes.
I love it. Because you know what? There's always a new story to tell.
Always.
There's always a new story to tell. And there's so much to learn. And I love our chemistry. I love that we just get into it. And I'm so grateful for you.
Oh my goodness, Christine. I am so grateful for you. I appreciate this platform, the way you're creating this vibe out in the world. Unconscious evolution. I mean, that title in and of itself it resonates deeply with me. And I think that the time is right for this kind of work and these kinds of conversations in the world.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for that.
I really appreciate your words, and they are marinating, and they will the rest of the day. Thank you so much. So, Teri, thank you again for sharing with us. Listeners, thank you for joining me again for season 2 of Unconscious Evolution, kicking it off with Teri Swope. Episode 1, this is amazing. And as I mentioned, her contact information is in the show notes. And until next time, enjoy yourself, enjoy the moment, and try to discover what your unconscious evolution is.